Now, there's no denying this is a humiliating setback for Russia, the latest in a string of defeats that Putin's military has suffered. Ukraine has made significant gains in the east, with a flurry of attacks before winter sets in, including retaking thousands of square kilometres of territory and strategic cities. Ukraine is now pushing further into Russian-held territory in the south. And according to some reports, Ukrainian troops have described their Russian counterparts as being in a panic, with demoralised soldiers surrendering and abandoning equipment in growing numbers. Now, it's only a matter of months ago that Putin was regarded as one of the most formidable and strategically cunning leaders on the global stage. Now, the lamentable performance of his military in Ukraine has left him not only facing criticism from the West, but also growing frustration from within Russia, where no one is willing to criticise Putin directly. As one writer said, quote, "That's a one-way street to imprisonment." But only days ago, the head of a Russian Parliamentary Defence Committee, Andrei Kartapolov, attacked the military for covering up bad news from the war front. And the deputy head of a Moscow proxy administration in southern Ukraine denounced Russia's defence minister's performance as being so poor that any real officer, he said, would kill himself. This is uncharted territory for Putin. There have been protests against him in the past, but never has he faced such widespread denunciation over his tactical decision-making. This is a man who's built his authoritarian, strong-arm reputation on his ability to demolish all opposition. Now he faces failure on the battlefield. What then does all this mean? Conceding defeat in Ukraine is not an option for Putin. That would risk his own departure from the scene. So he will double down militarily in a bid to stave off further humiliation. One dominant feature of the Putin strategy is, if he's confronting military failure, he answers those failures by doubling down. And as you've seen recently, calling up untrained recruits, conducting more attacks on cities, and of course threatening to use nuclear weapons. Well, the first part of that's begun. Putin has unleashed a wave of deadly missile attacks on Ukraine's biggest cities on Monday of this week, 2 days ago. Belarus has entered the war, saying it was forming a, quote, regional group of troops, unquote, with Moscow. And the coordinated attacks have hit Ukrainian civilian targets, including in Kiev. In one of the more disgusting performances, one of the targets was a park in central Kiev, usually a centre for families and buskers. The area was obliterated. Early reports say that 8 people had died and 24 people were injured in that explosion alone. And as the Ukrainian President Zelensky said, unfortunately there are dead and wounded, accusing Putin of wanting to, quote, wipe us from the face of the earth, kill people who go to work. All this 48 hours after the Kerch Bridge was hit by a huge blast. What this proves is simple. A weakened Putin does not make the world a safer place. There are few strategic analysts who believe he'll be banished from power, so Putin's threats, including the nuclear threat, must be taken seriously. The world has to stop this man, but how?